Welcome to the Word of Truth. This is Teacher D.H. Boone, and today's message is called Don't Let Them Break You. It's obviously a lot of things going on in this world today, and there's a lot of things that's unfolding in the Bible that Jesus predicted. He said that when it's going to be close to his second coming, he said it's going to be signs. He said people are going to be lovers of themselves. People are going to hate one another. People are going to try to get over on one another. People are going to not care about your feelings. You're going to hear rumors of wars, of fires, of, people gonna be liars. It's gonna be a lot of deception. We see things that's going on nowadays that, like racism. It's like evident. You know what I'm saying? People who working in companies, people who still in the dark. It's like you can't trust everybody, and some people don't like you just because of who you are. They like what you stand for, but they don't like that you stand for something that they don't stand for. That's why they don't like you. And a lot of times people want to get close to you because they want to be like you. They want to telegraph where you're going, and they want to be like you. And some people you can't trust. Some people are just liars. Some people are just, just be throwing bait out there, seeing if you're going to catch it. But you can't let nobody break you. You got to be smart. You can't let the game overtake you. You got to overtake the game. You got to know the game, so the game can't beat you. You have to make sure that you stand strong and don't let nobody break you. You have to realize God is the one who made you and created you. Don't let no person, place, or thing break you. Yes, it's going to be people may say some things about you. You might hear something that somebody said about you, but hey, when people talk about you, that means that they thinking about you. Just think about it. They talked about Jesus Christ. Somebody always got something to say. If you're doing something good, they got something to say. If you think you're too good, oh, look at him or look at her. And if you not doing so good, you having some unfortunate situations, then they want to talk about that. So see, you can't please nobody, and you will break yourself trying to please everybody. Sometimes you just got to go within yourself, and you got to do what's best for you. And sometimes you have to make sacrifices in order to keep your peace. But you can't let people break you. And we see how Jesus was. We see how Joseph was. They are the greatest examples, because we see, I don't care if they was trying to kill Jesus. Jesus never let nobody break him. Jesus still had his purpose on his heart and on his mind, and he fulfilled the purpose that God had for him, because he knew what he had to do for God was greater than his emotions and what he felt inside through what people felt about him. See, you have to let what God wants you to do outweigh your personal feelings and what people feel about you. Like they say, sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but names will never hurt you. If you know who you are, then that means you have to stand stark. You have to stand strong, and you have to stand tall, and you have to say, you know what? They talked about Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ didn't let words break him. They talked about, they lied on him. He didn't let that break him. They searched to kill him before they even killed him. Crucified him. He didn't let that break him. And you see, he still fulfilled the purpose. Jesus never complained. Yes, he asked God, can you take this cup from me? But when God say, no, I will not take this cup from you, it had to be done this way. Jesus went ahead and did it. And see, when God don't take a cup away from you and he tells you, sometimes God not taking away from you is his answer of saying, you got to press on a little longer. It's something I got in store for you. Don't let them break you. And see, when people give up, people don't understand you letting a person break you. The enemy wants you to give up. He works through people. Just like God worked through people, the enemy worked through people too, to get you to give up, because your blessing is where you at. The blessing is where God led you to in the first place. You don't see how it's gonna happen. You don't see why it's gonna happen, and you just don't understand how it's going to happen. But just because you don't understand, you can't let it break you. You got to keep your eyes and mind on the Lord, and you have to say, Lord, I trust you. And you remember that everything works together for the good for those who love God and called out according to his purpose. And you have to realize God say vengeance belong to him. He will repay. So we have to keep this in mind, and we have to realize that God's words are action words. We do not just read them. We just don't listen to them. We just don't write them on the table of our heart, but we use them as well. And so if God say everything works together for the good, then we have to realize we have to use that word and say, okay, everything works together for the good for those who love God and called out according to his purpose. Now, if you love God and you called out according to his purpose, then you know that God is going to work everything out for you. And if you love God, that means that you will go with the flow. That means that you will not let nothing break you that didn't make you. You know, God created you, nobody else. Yes, our parents gave birth to us, our mother gave birth to us, and our father planted the seed, but God is the one who created us. So we got to do what God tell us to do. And yes, it may not be feel good, it may be uncomfortable, but we got to keep our eyes and mind on him so we could be in perfect peace. And sometimes things don't make sense, but we have to realize we're here to please God, and God have the last laugh, and remember, and he had the last say. And remember, God say vengeance belong to him. So we don't try to take vengeance on our own. All we have to do is sit back and let God work things out. If anybody trying to stab you in the back, anybody try to break you, anybody try to talk against you, remember, God said that no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and he will refute every tongue that rise up against you. So that means anything that God, the God of this world have against you, he may have something against you, a weapon against you, but it will not prosper. Now, Jesus didn't say, and God didn't say that the weapon wouldn't be formed. He said it wouldn't prosper. So all you got to do is wake up each and every day and show up for life, and knowing that your Father is working on your behalf each and every day, every second, 24/7. See, God is faithful. He's trustworthy. God is not a liar. You know, God said in Isaiah 55, he said that my ways are not your ways. My thoughts are not your thoughts. He said, wherever I send my word, it will not come back to me void. So we just trust God, keep our eyes on him, and just let him work this out. See, God's ways is going to work different than our way will work. And that's why we just got to go show up for work each and every day. And God is going to work it out. You don't have to work it out. Let God work it out. And you just take one day at a time. Do what you got to do. Show up for life. Do what you got to do. Trust God and know that he will work it out. If somebody have anything against you, if anyone speak against you, if anything form a weapon against you, God will handle it. He said it will not prosper. If God before you, remember, nobody can be against you. There's no one's arm that's stronger than God's arm. Once God's arm is lifted, can't nobody put it down. Once his arm is put down, can't nobody lift it up. You know, and once God closed the door, can't nobody open it. And once God opened the door, can't nobody close it. And just because people say it wasn't a door, God can make a door for you. So what you do is God gonna work it out for you. So you go with the flow and with what God doing for you. See, what the enemy mean for bad, see, God will turn it around and use it for your good. So what you have to do is you have to stay strong and keep your eyes and mind on the Lord. Don't keep your eyes and mind on the enemy. See, the enemy wants you to keep your eyes and mind on him, so you could keep your eyes and mind off the Lord and what he promised you and what he said. And see, the enemy don't want to be forgotten. So he would come up and stir up some stuff. When he see that you like eased up and you kind of laying back a little bit, he say, wait a minute, let me stir this up. And sometimes he might come in as a flood. But what you have to do is you have to realize that it's a test. See, you got to keep your eyes and mind on God. Don't put it on the enemy. Because see, the enemy, that's what he wants. He wants you to keep your eyes and mind on him. He don't want you to have your eyes and mind on the Lord. See, he want to break you. He wants you to miss the blessing. He wants you to give up. Because if you give up, then that means that he has succeeded. He have broken you. So giving up is not an option. And see, God allowed you to go through these things because he's trying to establish you. He need people who are steadfast. He need people who are irremovable, people who won't give up easily, people who will keep on pressing. And even, yes, Joseph and Jesus, they didn't complain. And yes, sometimes we may complain. But once you complain and you realize what you're doing, just repent. And just long as you don't give up. See, we human. You know, God know we human. God know we might talk a little stuff here and talk a little stuff there. But long as you don't give up, long as that you will find your sinner back and you will repent and say, Lord, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I complained. I'm sorry. Because in the end, after you complain, you're going to see that God already worked it out for you. God will show you. God will make a way for you to see that he is behind the scenes working it out. That don't think that God have ever stopped, working for you, but you have to trust him. But what you got to do is you got to gird up your loins. You have to be strong. You have to know that God got you in the situation for a reason. God is working things out. You're on the right path. See, people think just because things, when things are peachy clean and going smoothly, that's it. That everything going right. And that, okay, you're on the right path. But people don't realize that when things get shaken up a little bit, you're still on the right path. Because God is allowing you to go to that next step. And God uses the enemy to test you and to show you what's inside you. And to show the enemy that, look, I have faith in my servant. Just like God had faith in Job. He said, there's none like him. Now Job might have wanted to give up, but it's one thing. He never cursed God. And see, God already know what we're going to do before we do it. But see, what we have to do is we have to realize that we will be tested. Because God, he needs troopers. He needs soldiers. He needs people who's going to fight. People who are going to be steadfast. People who are going to be loyal. People who are not going to give up. People who don't break easily. People who take a licking and keep on ticking. People who are stronger than the Energizer Bunny. That's the kind of people that God is looking for. God is looking for people who's going to stand on the front line and say, I will go to fight. And just like Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, they was like, okay, throw us in the fiery furnace. We don't care how hot it get. Because I tell you what, we are not going to walk away from God. We are going to be steadfast. We're going to stand strong. We are irremovable. We would rather for you to kill us, to burn us up in the fiery furnace, than for us to go against God. We are not going to serve your pagan God. And see, they was irremovable. They was steadfast. They was strong. They was determined. They wasn't deceived. They wasn't easily deceived. And God wanted to make sure that you're not easily deceived. You got to stop trusting everybody. You got to realize that your enemy is still your enemy. Just because your enemy talk good and talk a good game and talk smooth does not mean that he okay with you. He still want to get close to you because he wants something from you. So you got to be alert. And you have to remember what that enemy did to you. A lot of times people say, oh, they talking nice. Oh, he nice or she talking nice. No, you got to remember what God showed you before. But see, a lot of times people don't want to be alone, so they make amends with the enemy. But you got to know the enemy have an agenda, and the enemy will flatter you. The enemy will make you, believe that he is on your side when all the time he just want to take your place. He want to see where you at. He want to see where you know. He want to see where you going. He want to use you up and spit you out, because you know why? Because he want to break you. So now is the time for you to be smart. God said it. He said in these days, people are going to be lovers of themselves. People are going to be cold. People don't care how you feel. People don't care if you hurting. They don't care if they stab you in the back and twist it. They don't care how you feel after they do it. People will steal from you. They will deceive you. We see, back a long time ago, people would, break into your house when you're not there, when it's dark, But now, they do home invasions in the broad daylight. Why are you there? They will carjack you. They will take what's yours. And that's something that really gets to me. Why would people want to take something that belonged to somebody else? But if somebody took something that belonged to them, then they want to cry, And that's crazy. But we hear rumors of wars. We hear rumors of, it's false prophets out, it's deceivers, it's liars, And there's so many people that's lovers of themselves. Oh my God, long as it's about them. They don't care about you. They don't care about how they hurt you. All they care about how they feel. But you got to wake up and you got to be smart. Don't let anyone break you. Know who to trust. You got to start with knowing who to trust. And you got to believe what God tell you. You got to believe what your enemy will tell you. See, if you just be quiet and listen and be watchful, because God say the enemy is here to steal, kill, and destroy. So therefore, you have to be alert, watchful, and in prayer, because you have to be alert at all times. You have to be watchful at all times. You got to listen, because your adversary, he gonna try to sneak in, and he try to come in there subtle. But what you have to do is you have to be smarter. You have to study your enemy. Don't let the enemy know too much about you. You have to make sure that you know about your enemy and which way he coming from, so you won't let him gain no entrance. See, the enemy is very slick, but you got to be slicker than him. You got to use his own weapon against him. That's what you got to do. And see, what you got to do is just trust God. Take one day at a time. Take one moment at a time. And we see how Joseph was. Joseph, he didn't complain. His brother sold him into slavery. I know I talk about Joseph and Jesus a lot because they was great examples. And Abraham was a good example as well. But we see that Joseph, he was sold into slavery by his brothers because he told his dream prematurely, and that didn't sit well with his brothers. So they was envious of him because of the favor that he had. They was jealous of him as well. So they sold him into slavery for 20 pieces of silver. He was sold into Potiphar's house, then he was accused of rape, then he was put in jail, but after all he went through, he never complained. He just went through the flow, but God used him everywhere he was. And you know what? He ended up being second in command to Pharaoh. And Jesus ended up sitting second on the right hand of God the Father. And we see Abraham, God, he was about to sacrifice his own son Isaac because God told him to, and God provided a sacrifice. And see, when you sacrifice yourself, God will provide for you, and see, we see God took Abraham on a mountain and he said, far as you could see, I will give it to you. And see, God will take you if you please. God say, when a man ways please the Lord, he said, I will even let your enemies to be at peace with you. God told Abraham, far as you could see, I'll give it to you. And God, when you please God, God will say, far as you could see, I will give it to you. He will let your enemies be at peace with you. But until then, you got to be careful. And you got to remember, when God tells you to be careful of somebody, you got to be careful. Of course, your enemy ain't going to come to you say, I'm going to stab you in your back. Your enemy ain't going to say, well, I'm going to use you. He going to be subtle. He going to get you to trust him first. That's what he going to do. Then he going to come in like a flood. But see, you can't be no people pleaser. Because if you're a people pleaser, you will give in to the enemy. And he will eventually break you. See, the enemy got time, you know. And he will take the time necessary to break you. And when you heard of anybody else's story where they trusted somebody and end up being broken and may have lose their life in the hands of somebody they trusted, you got to follow that. You got to use that as an example, you know. Don't let nothing and nobody break you. Follow the signs. This is the sign of times. People are lovers of themselves. Some people that you thought you could trust, you can't. And it might be family. It might be somebody close to you. But you got to listen to God. You got to trust God. You got to put your faith and trust in him, you know. And see, God will show you if somebody's saying one thing out their mouth, but when they away from you, they doing something totally different. They're saying something totally different. See, the enemy wants you to believe him or her. Just be careful and know who to trust. Don't never let nobody break you. Know who you are and what you stand for. Don't never let people's words, you know, or what they feel about you or them disliking you break who you are, because you are here to please God. You're not here to please them. And you got to stand up strong. And God would allow this because he wants you. He wants to strengthen you. God is trying to establish you. That's the reason why he allows certain things to transpire in your life. So I just want to encourage you to keep your head up, stay strong, and don't let anything, nobody, or nothing break you that didn't make you. Until next time, may the peace of God be with you. Peace.